This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I am Rachni Jain. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to welcome you all to this online meeting. Please take a moment to review the guidelines for this online meeting posted in the chat window. I now request the moderator, Mr. Lakshmipati, to introduce the speaker and start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rajini. Good evening, everyone. I am Lakshmipati and I'll be moderating this meeting. Agricultureinformation.com likes to welcome to this meeting Dr. Sushant Shekhar, founder and director of Jaya Agrofoods, Diagar, Jharkhand. Dr. Sushant Shekhar will be speaking on the topic exotic varieties in mushroom, its economics and marketing. I now request the speaker to begin.
Good evening, friends. I'll not take much of time for my introduction. We'll directly come to the point. When I got a call from Agri Info regarding the topic that I'd like to discuss with you all for this upcoming webinar, I suggested that I'd like to talk to all the newcomers regarding exotic varieties because that is something which is very much in talk today. Though commercially very little is being done, exotic varieties and their cultivation techniques. So basically, since I'm logging in actually from my mobile right now, not from a laptop, uh, so I'll not be running any slide. I'll take you through the basics about two exotic mushrooms, which is very much in demand, which deserves attention at this point of time in India market also. That is, one is shiitake mushroom and the other one is king oyster mushroom. We also call it as Pleuretus eryngi and Lentinula inodes. Shiitake, before we come little bit about the cultivation aspect of these varieties, I'll tell you why do we really call them as exotic mushroom. Are they exotic in terms of market, or are they exotic in terms of their cultivation method, or are they like very high end culinary item wherein like highly regarded? uh, these are actually called exotic varieties because they adopt completely different commercial method of cultivation. Completely different approach is required. They are very high, very rich in medicinal properties, extremely good in taste, very exorbitant flavor, very open flavor. uh, so that is one of the biggest reason why these has been categorized, and there are many such varieties which is already in cultivation. There are some medicinal mushrooms like Ganoderma, even they are considered as exotic. So exotic it is not because of its culinary value, but then it's because of its nutritional value, because of its health, for towards the betterment of health it is being used. So that way we regard these mushrooms as on the higher side, on in a higher category, and also there is a rich taste and aroma. So now coming back to our topic, see, when we talk about exotic mushrooms, the two varieties which can easily be cultivated, I could have told you about many more, but I would like to talk only about two specific varieties which can be cultivated with some basic structural requirement. And one of those varieties is shiitake mushroom, and the other variety is king oyster mushroom, or Pleuretus eryngi. Now, it is actually a Japanese word, which is, if you see, it is shiitake, means that is a hardwood mushroom which is cultivated on hardwood. So with the name itself, we understand that shiitake mushroom grows on dead wood, or say decomposed wood, not exactly dead wood, but decomposed wood. And so then we understand one thing very clearly, that wood or sawdust is the raw material for the cultivation of shiitake variety. Same is the case with king oyster mushroom. King oyster mushroom actually doesn't look like general oyster mushroom. If any one of you know general oyster mushroom, It doesn't really look like general oyster mushroom. It is little different. But then when we talk about king oyster, even they prefer cultivating uh, the entire cultivation process on sawdust only. And when we talk about sawdust, please remember we are not talking about softwood or sapwood. We are talking about hardwood. Why hardwood again? Uh, because most of the hardwood which is being used for the cultivation practices, they do not contain any kind of toxic element in that, any kind of volatile oil in that. So that is a preferred choice, because if it is containing any kind of toxic oil or say volatile acid or anything as such, any kind of pigment or anything as such, what will happen? It will directly start interfering with the growth of your mycelium. So that is one thing which we are very clear, that we are not using something which is going to damage our mycelium in the during the running process, during the growth process. So in for both these varieties, one thing what we have common now over here is sawdust. Now second thing what we have common about these varieties, shiitake also loves to grow at a temperature in the range of 20 degrees, and king oyster loves to grow at a temperature in the range of 16 to 20 degrees again, preferably 16 to 18, but it can also be cultivated up to a maximum temperature of 20 degrees. So going by the aspect of their condition, their growth parameter, growth requirement, they both grow at a very similar temperature. Even shiitake, you can easily cultivate them in the temperature range of 16 to 18 degrees, and king oyster also is being cultivated in the same temperature range. Coming back to the process of the cultivation, if we look at the process of the cultivation, again we will see that okay, process wise also we require sawdust, we require rice bran as two primary substrate for both these varieties, for either of them, even for king oyster or for shiitake mushroom. So even going by that parameter also, they both have got similar requirement. Now where is the difference exactly lying? If you look back at the protocol of shiitake mushroom, which was being adopted by us in India 10 years back, shiitake was one variety which nobody wanted to take up because of the life cycle of mushroom. The entire life cycle of mushroom was around 150 days. So right from the bag making to the harvest and up to the second or third harvest, we calculate it comes around 150 days. So that was something which was really worrying a lot of newcomers, that okay, because the time cycle is very huge. So taking up that particular variety was always at risk. And even we were not suggesting or recommending people to take up such a variety which could have posed them risk right at the beginning. Also, you see your first harvest at the end of fifth month. That was also not fifth month. Harvest you can see easily at around 4 month time, but then closing the harvest is around fifth month. So that was again something which the newcomers would not have very much liked it to do. But over a period of time, there is a lot of advancement in the research, a lot of research activities going on by several research agencies in country. We also conduct some independent research over here. So going by these researches now, we are able to achieve the growth of shiitake mushroom in around 35 to 40 days time now. And the entire cycle is restricted around 60 to 70 days now, which was earlier taking around 150 days. So there is almost 50% we have gained in terms of their entire life cycle. And yield potential for shiitake has also actually gone higher with this ongoing research. What happens actually, when we get any variety in the country, what generally researchers do, we try and adopt that particular variety in our Indian conditions. And over a period of time, people say that no, it happens immediately. No, it takes its own sweet time. Over the period of 10, 15, 20 years, we are able to finally get a variety which can grow very well in Indian conditions, and that will suit the requirement of Indian growers as well. So time has passed a lot over all these years. There is a lot of advancement which has happened, and we expect in future it it will further improve only. Like if we see the overall yield potential of shiitake mushroom 10 years back, it was around 18 to 20%. Today, the yield potential of shiitake mushroom is close to 50%, when we calculate the bioefficiency per kg of dry weight of the substrate, from 20% it has gone up to 50%. Life cycle from 150 days has come down to 70 days. So certainly there is an advancement. Whereas when we talk about king oyster mushroom life cycle is very similar to what we get in oyster mushroom. If any one of you know a little bit about oyster mushroom, it is very similar to that. And when we talk similar to that, king oyster takes around 25 to 30 days to give us the first harvest. Again, depending upon the temperature and other parameters that we are able to successfully maintain. So when we maintain other parameters successfully, we can assure that we will be getting the yield quick. Now, when it comes to bioefficiency of king oyster mushroom, again, it is very similar to shiitake mushroom. It is not, coincidentally, it is nowhere close to any other oyster variety, because oyster we generally expect a yield efficiency of 90% and above. But with king oyster mushroom also we expect in the range of 30 to 50% only. We are not expecting more than that. Slowly, with as the time passes, maybe there will be more research, and maybe we'll able to work out more in terms of king oyster mushroom. It's a very newly introduced variety in the country. And then there is another exotic variety. If I give you very little information about that, we call it as portobello mushroom. Now, portobello mushroom has got very similar requirement to what button mushroom has. But then the choice, the demand of portobello is not very good in the country as of today, mainly because of its color. Portobello, shape-wise, size-wise, it exactly looks like button mushroom, white button mushroom. But the color of portobello is slightly on the brownish side. Not slightly, it is actually on the brownish side. You can say the color of the soil, color of the sand. And because of the color of portobello, it is still not gaining that kind of popularity in the market. But then if we see the nutritional aspect of portobello, whereas the growing parameter for portobello and button is same, whereas portobello is exotic and button is not exotic. Very simple, because of the rich aroma, because of the taste, because of the high level of nutrition which is present in portobello. Because of the level of nutrition that we get in portobello, we consider portobello mushroom in the variety, in the category of exotic mushroom. So these are the three varieties actually. Now, going by the basic cultivation parameter, if we look at, it is same. We need to pasteurize the substrate. Generally, it is preferred that there is no chemical pasteurization which should be used for cultivation of these exotic varieties. So the parameters what we follow is pasteurization of the substrate with steam, and conditioning of the substrate. And once conditioning is done, then spawning is done. We will add inoculum, we will add spawn to the substrate media, and then it is kept at a temperature of around 20 degrees centigrade, and it is kept in the chamber, wherein it stays in the chamber for a period of time around 20-25 days of time. When we see different stages of shiitake happening, shiitake has got total 11 stages of growth. So by the time it is 20-25 days, we see shiitake entering into the fifth stage of growth, which is called hardening. And once hardening starts, then that takes around again 15 to 20 days of time. And once hardening is done, then we give cold shock. Cold shock is given wherein the bags what we make, it is dipped in a liquid in water where the temperature of the water is maintained at 4 degrees centigrade for a period of 30 minutes. And then we remove from the water and we again keep them back on the shelf. So keeping back on the shelf due to the cold shock, budding initiates, and from there fruiting initiates. Wherein the protocol for king oyster, if we look at the protocol, it is very similar to oyster mushroom. We will pasteurize, prepare the bag, keep it in the chamber, and allow it to grow. Now again, king oyster mushroom can also grow on other media, like they can also grow in wheat straw, they can also grow in paddy straw. Different yield efficiency can be achieved using different media, but then yes, it can be cultivated in different media also. It is not that it is restricted to be cultivated in a single media. Now, when we are growing king oyster mushroom, one thing we have to be very careful about, that we need to maintain a single parameter, single temperature range throughout the growth cycle. We cannot vary that. And now same thing when we are growing shiitake mushroom, shiitake during the initial stages of growth up to hardening, they require 2 to 3 degree higher temperature. And once hardening is done and cold shock is given, then they require a temperature in the range of 18 degrees, 20 degrees, which should be actually 2 degrees lower. Also, once the hardening is achieved, then we provide them with almost 60% of light, and we need to make sure that pH is also very much balanced. So carbon dioxide expulsion from the room and fresh air entry into the room, that has to be well maintained and properly managed during that particular stage of growth. So shiitake is little more trickier when it comes to the cultivation aspect. Shiitake is little more trickier. King oyster is comparatively much easier, but then shiitake has got a much bigger market share than king oyster, and which is why in last 2-3 years we are seeing an increasing demand in the number of growers for the cultivation of shiitake mushroom. Earlier we were hardly getting one client in 2 or 3 years. Now in last 2 years alone, I have got around 7 people who are getting into shiitake mushroom cultivation, and few of them have already started doing it. So now the thing is that the demand part is in getting on the better side, and when we have the demand part on the better side, what we need to look at, what aspect we need to really looking at, once we cultivate, where do we market, how do we market our produce, that is something which again becomes very important, very crucial aspect. So marketing wise for these varieties, there are two ways right now. If you ask me, like, as of today, where do we market these exotic varieties? See, all hotels, restaurants which are high-end hotels and restaurants, they actually pick these varieties very easily. So they are one of the very soft buyers. There are supermarkets now in Bangalore also, many of them like Godrej and even Big Basket was taking for some time, but they stopped it again. Then we have Lido 1MG Mall. So there are places in Bangalore where there is specific market for these varieties. If we have to enter into domestic market, then what we have to make sure is that we should be competitive in terms of pricing when we are entering into domestic market. Even if we are looking at exporting, if we are looking to produce in a volume and looking at exporting these varieties, then you will also have to target that whatever prices which is there in the global market, you should be able to match that price. That is number one aspect. And second aspect is you should be coming out with quality. Like, you should not be compromising in terms of quality, because they will want your mushroom to pass through a lot of quality parameters. That is, and to get that quality enhancement, what is your best option is your substrate. If your substrate is of good quality, and if you're not using any mixed substrate, then getting that passing on those test parameter is not a very difficult task. So again, we'll have to fight with the competitiveness in the global market. South Asian countries, they are one of the rich market for these varieties. There is a good demand actually for shiitake mushroom in US also now, but then US has got a lot of stringent policies, which is very difficult to cross through for any grower. So that is something, what if somebody is starting and they want to supply to US, that is something what they need to really look at. They need to check their policies, what are the policies over there, and accordingly they should be doing a prototype experiment and see whether they are able to meet those parameters or not. And then scalability is another concern, which that can be always taken care of. Okay, so more than exporting, I believe that the demand, the market for these varieties is growing in the country today. And one of the biggest reason why the demand of shiitake has actually gone multifold. Shiitake was nowhere in global trade in last 1 decade, but since last 10-12 years, we see shiitake, it has gone up to second position. And with the kind of progress that shiitake is having as of today, we expect shiitake to become number one in the world very soon. Right now, button is number 1, shiitake is number 2, and oyster is number 3. Earlier it was button, oyster, and then there were the other varieties also. Now shiitake has gone on the higher side. Reason being, shiitake has got a compound present in that, which is called as lintin, and this particular compound is directly used as a drug for patients suffering from cancer, specifically patient suffering from stomach related cancer. It is actually one of the medicines which is extensively used globally. In Japan, it is a prescribed drug. Mushroom itself is a prescribed drug in Japan. And in India also, like I get call from many people, those who are able to get my number, and they call me that my uncle is suffering from cancer and my sister is having, my brother is having, and doctor has advised me to give mushroom in their daily diet, and I want chemical free mushroom, so I got your number, and can you please help me source that. So people in India, doctors in India have also started talking about shiitake mushroom in that direction today, and I believe that 10 years down the line, shiitake will be a primary variety to grow in this country, wherein there will be more and more focus on its research, there will be more and more focus on its cultivation, and there will be equally very high demand of this particular variety. Okay. Economics also, if you see economic wise also, shiitake mushroom, they are actually almost say around 110 rupees per kg is your cultivation cost for the entire cycle, and you can easily sell shiitake for a price of 300 also, and I know people who are selling shiitake at a price of 600 and 700 rupees a kg also. So it depends how you want to expand your market and how you want to approach your market. It totally depend upon you, but then yes, that is something which is to be taken care of, because production cost is not that high, so you can always restrict your selling cost to the point wherein you are able to reach market and expand your horizon to the maximum possible capacity. Accidentally in and around Bangalore, there is no one who is cultivating these varieties today. Many would be putting their photos and giving some descriptions over Instagram or Facebook or any other social platform. But the fact of the matter is nobody cultivates. And yes, Bangalore requires a good unit, a standard production unit for shiitake mushroom very soon in the future. They will require. Because right now, every single mushroom which is coming to Bangalore market is being imported. It is not supplied from within the country. So that is something which anybody in this group today, in this meeting today, can take it up and plan it very sincerely. It is a possibility. It is not that it is rocket science anymore. Cultivation aspects are easy, and if somebody wants to sincerely take it up, it can always be done. Okay. So with this, I will close my.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Dr. Sushant Shekhar, for an interesting talk. I now request the participants to ask their questions. We'll also be posting the speaker's contact details in the chat window. Now over to the participants for questions. Any questions, participants? The speaker's contact details are all also available in the chat window. Anybody can raise questions later after the meeting also. Any question, Mr. Mohan?
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmipati.
Yes, Mr. Mohan.
Good evening, Dr. Sushant Shekhar ji, and it is very interesting topic, but unfortunately we couldn't able to see your presentation, which it could have been.
Yeah, I was not able to log in through laptop.
So
Some
anyway, if possible, we do share to agriculture information so that.
Yeah, I'll send it to them.
And this is Mohan. Actually, I'm into the cold storage line. I'm basically a civil engineer architect, and I'm interested in mushrooms actually. So I was earlier thinking of the regular mushrooms, button mushrooms, and the other mushrooms type. But the one actually today you took the topic, it is very good, and in the near future medical related and even for immunity purpose. Hopefully, it is going to be useful. What my question is, I think marketing such type of different varieties, exotic varieties, is how difficult in India, and as well as the production wise when compared to the regular mushrooms and this particular exotic varieties, is there any stringent stuff hurdles are hidden in this?
Sir, I'll tell you, cultivation wise, yes, it is still stringent. I will not say it is very convenient. There are certain regulations what we need to be very specific about. Like since you are working in cold storage, you would be knowing that how important is the role of temperature and airflow in the chamber. If there is a variance in the temperature or airflow, then the product, food item, whatever you are storing in the cold storage, it will easily get damaged. Okay, so and if you are able to maintain the condition, you can store a few of the food items, few of the vegetables for months together without any problem.
Yeah.
So yes, they are a bit stringent, but they are not as stringent as they were 10 years back. A lot of things have got eased out today. So cultivation wise, I will say it is not stringent, but yes, it is still very much typical. It is not stringent anymore. That kind of stringency is not there today. Market wise, again I'll tell you, whatever situation, what when we started when we got into mushroom, whatever scenario we had at that time, today it is much different, and there are buyers for these exotic varieties today, who want specifically these varieties, and there is a good demand as of today in the market regarding these varieties. So market is not a trouble, and so far it is not a trouble also because there are no such big growing units today in the country. Like when we starting up right now, the work is already going on in the infrastructure. I believe they will be in the top 5 in the country in terms of volume that they'll be able to generate, because their plan is to cultivate at least around 200 kg per day. So yes, certainly, if we see more and more growers coming into this particular variety, future, I understand that pricing can be compromised a bit, but then when the pricing will be compromised, cultivation technology will also improvise, cost of cultivation will also come down. So certainly things will be on the better side only. It is not as if like if today we don't have growers, and in the future when we have good number of growers, will it directly impact on the market? No, it will not impact in the market. It did not happen for other varieties. 10 years down back, 10 years behind, if you look at, there were hardly around 100 people cultivating button mushroom. But if you look at today's scenario, there are more than 1,000 units cultivating button mushroom. Still, button mushroom is very much in demand. It is very simple, sir. When there is a supply, demand can be easily created. It is just that demand and supply ratio, which has to be taken care of. And in a very simple way, if I tell you, uh, there was a time when there was only one brand in the market, Colgate, and today every year we see a new brand coming into the market, but then they have their own space, they have their own segment, and they're not affecting the market of Colgate also. They are all surviving together in the market. So it will be very much similar scenario when we have large number of growers in the country. They will be finding their own spaces. It is not that they will be entering into your space and marketing the product. It doesn't happen that way. So they'll be finding their own space and they'll be expanding in their own particular area. So you can always look at it that way, because there was a time when even metro cities people were not growing these exotic varieties, and today I know in even type B and type C cities, people have started growing these varieties in a very small volume. They are not doing in large volume, but in a smaller volume, people have already started trying these varieties. So time is changing, condition is changing. Uh, we have seen India, we have seen the world before COVID, we are seeing the world after COVID. There's a lot of awareness in the market, lot of awareness among the people. So certainly things are changing for something better. You never know how much it will be improving only. and unfortunately we are not prepared that much for that kind of improvement. So that is again is a drawback on our part only. So certainly I expect things to go better only from here rather than going on the reverse side.
Yeah, I do accept your statement and explanation. Even it may appear a little tough initially, because when I started last 25 years back, mine was the second cold storage in my region, where Guntur and all the red chilies they store in the storages. In this last 25 years, there are 175 cold storages has come, and still everybody is having market, and much more new cold storages are coming. And the interesting part on your explanation, on your what you mentioned, the exotic varieties, it is medically related, especially disease like cancer and such types of this thing. And of course, mushroom itself is an excellent. I don't know whether we call it as a fruit or vegetables, whatever it may be. It is a definitely is a good thing to tap the market in a systematic way, and a couple of issues will be uh, hindrance for the entrepreneur like me. One is technical know-how, and I don't know how far you can help me, and whether we can able to visit our plant. Number two, I'm a basically even exporter also. I export all USA and Europe of my daughter's name, Ramya Foods and Spices, and all the spices I export throughout the globe. And definitely, if you do in a systematic way with point to point, and I think export market also will be good, subject to we should have thorough with that. So to go for that, can I seek your assistance after this session,
Always, sir, anytime.
so that you can guide me, and if necessary, I will come and discuss in mutual wise also, we can go ahead, sir.
No problem. You can always plan for that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I note down your number and I will be in touch with you. Thanks,
Sure,
Mr.
sir.
Lakshmi. Thanks, doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. We come to the end of the session. I'd like to thank the speaker, Dr. Sushant Shekhar, on behalf of Agriculture Information, for taking his time to speak with us. I now request the organizer of the meeting, Mr. Rajini Jain, to please close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmipati. I'd like to thank the speaker, Dr. Sushant Shekhar, for taking the time to talk with us. I also like to thank all the participants for their time. The meeting will now be closed.